let's start the Monday morning with a quick somatic work, as you mentioned. Let's get this energy pumping. This is an exercise I do pretty much every day. It's based on very simple techniques of breath work. So you're rebalancing your energy level. So if you follow me, just do breathing in with the nose and then breathing out with the nose. We do it 10 times, and then I will tell you, go up, 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 like breathe in as much as you can. And then I will say, hold it. And then you need to imagine that you have like 3 energy centers from your genitals, like the bottom up until the chest, and you squeeze it. Okay, so we go. So in. Okay, now in. All in, and then squeeze. Let it go with the mouth. You see the pumping in the brain, the energy going up? You do it 3-4 times, even longer, and you actually hold the breath way more, and your energy is going to be like another level. I've been waking up in the morning, like sleeping 6 hours, and I don't know, like raining and like not willing to wake up. And after this exercise, you shine as a piece of gold.
Alessandro, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, by the way.
You know, anytime that we do, a lot of times we'll do priming before we start a podcast together. And, we have this kind of format for going down it. And I really do appreciate that you brought one to the table. And it's Monday morning today, guys, when we're recording this. And I just want to say thank you for joining us, and thanks for getting the priming going. And today we're going to talk a lot of cool stuff and body work and energy work. And Alessandro's got some great energy and some great techniques for us, and we're going to bring that to the table. So enjoy this podcast for those of you that can really looking for that body work. Alessandro, one of the things we talked about is we really want to dive into the body's a big giant salt battery, and we store a lot of trauma in it, and that trauma has us not be able to access the full power of our brain. Right. And I wanted to kind of dive right into that conversation because I think that's an interesting one for us to unwind.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I spent so many years into, the physics and the biology of it and the quantum, like going then into the energy topic is like you're summarizing everything that there is to know and also simplifying it in a very simple way. We are 70% water, actually women a little bit more. Our body, everything in our body is held up by what is called the fascial system. It's like collagen. If you're into, biohacking or gym, you will know like peptides and proteins. So collagen is a part of the protein. And this protein holds the water. And inside of this, there's minerals that like the salt and the other like electrolytes, let's say, that you drink as an athlete if you do. And some of these, not all, but some of these has piezoelectric capabilities. What does it mean? It means that when they shake, they actually like develop, they emanate energy. And so this is the very simplest way to translate it into what the actual body is. It's a highway of energy that flows from the top of your head until the ground. Also why if you don't ground, often if you don't walk barefoot on earth, you're actually ungrounded and there is no balance of energy. And the fascinating thing is all of these energy flows is also emotion. Emotion is actually the way that this energy gets translated into a feeling in your body. And if you hold into that consciously or unconsciously in the majority of cases, you create and store trauma. There is a beautiful book by Peter Levine, is scientist and very expert on these topics. And he says, how come an animal can be chased by a lion and then running, 20 minutes or something, and then suddenly he manages to escape, and you see this animal after a few minutes grazing happily on the grass. And we humans, we hold into so much trauma because we have ourselves. We have our logical mind that keeps reasoning on and on and on and on about what happened. The chemical reaction of a trauma, of any emotion actually, in our brain lasts 90 seconds, 90. Everything more from the 91st second onwards, it's our choice to actually continue thinking about what happened.
Well, it's kind of funny how we get into this rethinking it over and over and over, and what I should have done, what I could have done. It's something. I guess it's right. It's kind of innate to humans, right? Where we kind of overthink what just happened.
We like to say that we are smart animals. Probably we are too smart and we get stuck in our loops. Like when you go into like the marketing or other business data analytics, and then you talk about analysis paralysis, that's exactly what happens in our brain every single day if we're not careful enough.
Well, what I do notice is that those traumas, those things that store up, or those thoughts, those rethinking of thoughts, resentments, those angers, those fears, those frustrations, those things that I hold on to actually slow down my ability to flow, right? Yep. For me, I can notice that the more I work on releasing those things, right? Releasing those resentments, noticing my part in it, right? Starting to note, one of the biggest gifts I've ever had was that I went through a list of all the resentments I had in my life and all the fears I had in my life, and kind of did an inventory on them. And, the story about this one and the story about that one. And I grew up in Pompano. My mother was a waitress, and I was poor, and we had these things, and my father died young, and all these ideas that were things I kept thinking about and why my life was the way it was, and started realizing, nope, that's just how life is. And it was my thoughts around those, right? My thoughts, the things I held on, the things I made those things believe. And then when I started to release and restore those, right, when I go back and go, yeah, my father did the best he could. Even though he died young, he was a gangster. He thought that that's what he had to do to provide for us, right? That's all he knew, right? That's his training. That's what he had. Or my mother, she worked tirelessly as a waitress and answering phones and a seamstress, and she worked tirelessly to provide for 2 kids, even though she didn't speak the language. That's what she knew, right? And when I get the gift of letting go of the resentment of not having money like the other kids did, and looking at the life I had as a gift, all of a sudden I can release those things, right? And the more of those I release, the more I have the ability to flow with things, right? The more of those things I can release, I can notice that I can be in the business world, I can be my family world, I can be in other parts of my world in flow, right? Where things, people go, how do you do so much in a day? I'm like, I don't hold on to all that stuff I used to think about from the past.
Yeah, I like to say that, when I hold workshops with founders and we work on peak performance mindsets and so on, I always make the metaphor and the similitude to a water pipe. And you have so much knots inside of these pipes, full of dirt, full of airs, whatever kind of stuff you can imagine there. And it's clearly that every time you put some water, then it takes half an hour to go down. You clean up your pipe and boom, everything goes so fast. And everybody asks me, oh, but how can I, how long does it take to make this work? And of course, it depends how much stuff you have to clean up, of course. But what people don't understand is that imagine a rubber band that you literally keep pushing harder and harder every day. And every time you let it go, boom, it comes back, right? Because you have so much trauma holding you back, like a backpack. But when you do the opposite, so yeah, you're walking straight and you start to stretch this rubber band, but at the same time, you take out your backpack full of stones and rocks, shoom, you're like a missile, because you don't have anything holding you back anymore. And that's what people don't understand, because every time it's like, yeah, but I don't need therapy. I didn't have like a traumatic childhood or whatever. Like we think, even myself, I mean, I had a relatively good life when I was a kid, but I still had a lot to work on. And we always think, oh no, like the people with the problems, are the ones that are really, really messed up. But the reality
Sure.
is that we are creating trauma and we are holding and storing this trauma in the body every single day. It can even be like a very tiny thing. I mean, when I started to do this work, and if you want, we can talk about the actual practice. I mean, some thoughts that got released in my mind of when I was a kid and I didn't bring the right notebook at school, and they yell at me because I didn't have the right notebook. Who would have thought that that was a trauma? But it was.
Sure. Right. It's like I can go back to mine. Was I was a little boy, and I used to love to run and skid on my knees, and that would cause holes in my pants. And my school said you weren't allowed to go to school with holes in your pants. So my mother would sew patches on them because we couldn't afford new pants. And some kid made fun of me because of the patches on my pants. I had all these patches on my pants because she wasn't allowed to send me to school with holes, right? So I'd have these patches, and those patches, that kid making fun of me, was literally one of the basis of most of who I am today. I mean, I've been trying to defend I'm not poor since that day on the playground, right? So since that day on the playground when that kid made fun of me, I've been defending I'm not poor. And that's maybe why I make money, why I do stuff. I could, if you go back, and that's here, by the way, that's $10,000 worth of therapy right there. That's all leads to that place in the playground, right?
I could have unlocked you in one night with me.
Yeah. Oh, right.
I like the joke.
How many of us have that? Right? How many of us have that it's a simple unlock to get it. Now, I mean, once you get it and you start looking at it, you start going, look at how I act. If you go out to dinner with me, I've never let anybody buy dinner for me. Never. I mean, people get annoyed. Like, why are you buying dinner? I want to buy dinner this time. And I'm like, no. Because part of me says, defending who I am is I'm not poor. I got to buy dinner for you. Right. And then, then you miss out on things.
There's literally a knot of energy, of information. Yeah. Imagine like the picture of, or maybe like the 30 seconds rewind kind of, how do you call it? Like the kind of memory film, right? When it was an analog movie before. Imagine there's literally that roll stuck somewhere in your body, and you're one step away to actually unlock it. It's not that difficult if we understand it. The problem, what is it? It's that it seems too easy to be real, because we have been primed, we have been brainwashed that we need years and years of therapy with a rational process to unlock this stuff. The reality is that all of this has nothing to do with the rational. It's all subconscious. 95% of our actions every single day are driven by our unconscious. You don't think where to put your feet on a pedal when you know how to drive after a month or something that you're driving. So all of this is muscle memory. It's the same thing. So the same way that you store the information of how to drive, you know how to unlock yourself.
I don't want to speed over what you just said, because I think it's huge. Like, look, I think there's a right there, maybe the key to all of us that are going through it. This piece, it's not some heavy lift thing you have to do. It's not years and years of changing to make this happen. It can literally be in a conversation, right? The unlock. So let's go through that. Like, look, for folks that you're out there thinking, I've got to do all this change in life. Oh my God, my life's messed up. I got to do. It's not. Rarely is it, bent like this. It's usually just like a little tweak, that little tweak may unlock the stream of abilities from there on out. So I dive into that just a little bit more. So I don't want to speed over that, because I think most of us, or at least I did, I came to this whole thing with, I got to do years of work, and I got to change is hard and it takes forever. And I have to,
well, let me say something first of all, because I guess the audience is pretty much entrepreneurial. So
yes,
73% of entrepreneurs are neurodiverse. Okay, let it sink 1 second. 3 out of 4 people out there being a founder, being an entrepreneur, is a neurodiverse person. Why? Because we are unemployable, because we are such diverse kind of people. And so we're not the minority. We're the majority. The majority of founders are neurodiverse. Let's just get it clear. And the fact that you're neurodiverse, it means that you're living your life differently. And because you're the black sheep every single day of your life, you are in a loop where you need to prove the world is wrong. My mother said this. My teacher said that. My first employer ever said whatever. And no, I'm building a company. I'm showing the world that I'm a better person, that I'm worthy, whatever. And this is what happens when you start a company and you want to have external validation, right? You do it for the money, you do it for the recognition, you do it for the success, the metrics,
That's right.
and then you burn out. And that's like the easy way. You get straight into burnout. Now, let's talk about how to get out of this hamster wheel. There are very many different methods. The one that we can talk about now is mostly like an explanation of how everything works. As I was saying, 95% of your actions every single day are subconscious. They are what we can call habits, okay? And to change a habit, science tells us you need around 21 days because you need to rewire the neural brain pathway to make a new path for a new action. So how do we build new habits if every time that we are trying to renew the pathway, there is this flow of energy that is blocked by a trauma? Well, we need to unlock it. How? We need to, first of all, do something that for us founders is very difficult, which is relax, let go, and let our subconscious raise. When you have those intuitive moments, when you're relaxed and somehow pump, immediately the answer to your problems come out. That's when you're allowing your subconscious to actually take control. You're not so much in the rational mind, you're more in the torso, in the chest, or even better, in your gut. And when we allow to do this, there are some meditations. You can do relaxation, you can do breath work, as we started at the beginning of the conversation. There are different things you can do. And ask a question, okay? I'm going to tell you the very simplest method that anybody can do, because of course there are more complex, or let's say you need to be a little bit more trained. We don't need to go there necessarily. But the one thing that you can do yourself is the following. Lie down on your bed, take any kind of relaxing meditation that does, ideally the one that are going to guide you, so that they can kind of like do a body scan, you slowly start to perceive your body, etc., etc. And ask a question to your subconscious. Why do I have this? Or why am I this? Why do I react in this way? And you will see that by letting the rational wall calm down, the subconscious raises and is going to talk to you. It's kind of like a self-hypnosis, if you will. When you do this exercise, you can understand, that's really how I'm behaving. That's why I'm behaving like that. And then do a very simple thing. When you understand what is that is happening, so what is the ideal cause that you have identified, then set a very clear intention. I will let go of XYZ, trapped emotion, low energy, negative energy, etc. And do this movement for yourself. You start from the front here and you go all the way down until your neck. You're actually following the central meridian, okay? Here in acupuncture, or if you want to also look at it from the chakras, you're actually working with the very primal meridian that takes the energy from the top, as we said before, and then it brings it down to the rest of your body. So if you kind of do this intention 3 times, I let go of X, I let go of Y. You do it 3 times. In some cases, you may need a little bit more, depending on whether the emotion is very strong and deeply entrapped. But you're kind of like communicating with the energy machine that we were talking before, like the energy battery, and you're letting the information to your body to say, get rid of it, finally. Let's finally close the loop of this cycle. Let's be an animal again, right? Let's go back to grazing happily after the lion chased us. It's that simple.
Well, I haven't had that experience where it feels that simple. I feel like I've had this issue with And maybe I could kind of share experience where I feel like the best I've been able to do is have somebody else work with me. I just notice that my brain, my guess is if I could see it, I would have changed, right? I mean, I don't want to be stuck anywhere, right? I know that, but if I'm uncomfortable or I'm afraid, or, someone said to me, look, the best place to do is notice the places where you're really uncomfortable, notice the places, the fears that you hold on to, the anxieties. That's a pretty good place to start. So I can see those, but how to change them sometimes feels a little bit more, I've had a hard time seeing it by myself and then languaging them, right? So sometimes I feel like when I can talk out loud with somebody else, like a trusted person like yourself, where I can literally share, all right, look, I feel exhausted by, the thought of, for me, it was about wealth and money and being able to, keep up with my bills. And the guy looked at me and was like, dude, you got plenty of money. I mean, what are you talking about? You've made millions and you're worried about what? Yeah, but no, but I run around doing this. And well, all right, good. Let's start to unwind that. And having someone who can help me outside of my brain has been helpful, right? I don't know. For some reason, I feel like my brain, I call my brain Fred, right? I've named him, and Fred's kind of a jackass. And Fred, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like if I could get there, I think I would have gotten there. Sometimes all that meditation stuff will get me relaxed and wanting to go find it. Like I'm with you. If I do all that work you were just talking about, and I can get to that place where truth is I want to go find it. Like what's holding me back? I think all of us do. I don't think there's anybody out there who's going through fears, anxiety, resentments that wants to carry that stuff. Now the question is, how do I get to it?
Yeah. So the thing is, consciously, when you are in a good state, you know that you want to get out of it.
Right.
The problem is that our mind, the sole job of our mind is to keep us alive. And our mind prefers a bad known to any unknown. So the issue that you were saying is that if you're working with me or anyone else, you're trusting me that I know better. And so your brain is relaxed because it's saying, wait, I have a professional in front of me. Then it must be bring me somewhere safe. If you do it alone, you don't know where you're going to get. And you don't know if you're going to get somewhere that you don't like, how is it going to feel like? So, of course, with a guide, it's faster, absolutely. But I can tell you, these methods can be accessed by anyone on their own, not easily, of course, but with enough dedication. And I tell you something more.
It feels like,
Yeah, so when it comes to the mind...
Just real quick. Yeah. So it feels like once I've gone through that with someone like you, and I can trust that it's a safe process, right now today, through coaching, I can now say to my mind, how could the opposite of what I'm thinking be true? Right. And then I can start doing that other stuff that you were talking about, right? Like it's taken like a little bit so I'm trying to speak to those people that are out there thinking, I can't do this. Right. Hey, and maybe you could, because if you wanted to, you would have. Right. For those of you that are stuck, that are thinking that you're there, I don't know. Talk to me about that.
Let me tell you. No. Yeah. This is powerful. This is powerful because I will tell you something more. This thing work exactly with the same mental process that you used unconsciously to get stuck in the very first place. Okay? So let me clarify. We can go very deep. We can talk about quantum physics if you even want to, but the essence of what I say, backed by science, is that reality is a projection of what your mind thinks it is. And I can tell you additional proofs. One simple one that for me, it literally changed my whole mindset. The speed of the message, the signal, from the eye to the brain takes more time than the reaction of the brain through the body. So what does it mean? It means that you react faster than your eyes can actually see and send the signal to your brain. This is proof that you don't see what you see. The eyes are a confirmation mechanism to show and confirm the brain what the brain wanted to see. And there are hundreds of studies that are proving all of this. There are studies that are confirming that what happens inside of your mind is not perceived differently than what happens outside of your mind. So there has been even studies of people that have been training in the gym mentally and they grew muscle mass. Okay, this is crazy. So
hey, listen, I'm all for it. I don't have to go to the gym. I can just think about it. Listen, Alessandro, that sounds like an awesome
It's crazy. It's crazy. There are scientific studies, double-blind scientific studies. Okay, I'm not inventing it. So the same mechanism works for getting you stuck in the same way that you get unstuck. As I was saying, the reality outside of you is a projection of what your brain thinks it is. So in the very same way that you created the subconscious bias of knowing that something outside is going to be difficult, is going to take long time to fix, is going to be, painful, whatever hustle story that you want to believe, it's going to become true. Because you're literally building that type of reality. I can tell you,
all the time.
I've been interviewing founders that have been projecting outside. I work less than 5 hours a day, and I sell $100 million company in less than 5 years. And they've been projecting this thought over and over and over, and they've done it. They've done that. So every time, and for me, it took 12 years of chronic depression, and very painful moments as an entrepreneur. Okay, I started meditation, I started breathwork, the exercise that we did at the beginning. The only reason why I know this is because I had so many panic attacks that I could not finish my day before yelling at somebody. I had to spend the lunch break when everybody was going to the restaurant. I was spending it in the meeting room, shutting the door on, and then listening to the breathing exercises. Okay, so just to understand that I didn't start at the top. I started from the bottom and I built it up. So if you think and if you understand that every thought, every word that you say, and every action that you do is going to build the reality that you live in, and this is physics, okay? This is proved by physics. It's not anymore a spiritual conversation. There is science proving this.
That's right.
You're building the reality. So it takes 21 days to build the habit. From the rational mind, it goes down into the subconscious mind. 95% of your actions are driven by subconscious actions. So change what you think, and you will change what you see outside and what you do.
All right.
And how you
so now let's talk about how do I change what I think. I mean, look, I'm 57. I've been thinking of this way for a long time. How do I start to identify how to change the way I think? Let's start there.
There's a beautiful. So the very first thing that I want to break down and even break off, like as a old belief system, is the fact that the brain cannot change. I remember my parents, when I was younger, saying, I'm so old, I cannot change my mindset now, I'm like that. And that's it. Science proves once more that this is not true. There is a term that is called neuroplasticity. That is the capability as a muscle of the brain to change and adapt to new conditions. By the way, it's also a very key indicator for not having Alzheimer's down the road, because the more neuroplasticity you have, the more your brain keeps being active in elderly ages. Not that you're old, but if older people can do it, then anybody can do it. This is the first concept. Your mind is not stuck. The mind is primed and is built upon the habits that you have already repeated hundreds of thousands of times in the previous years. So every single morning, what I do is that I do the breathwork exercise that you have done with me in a longer version that allows me to be in a higher vibration state of my brain waves, which
kind of primed.
allows for more, exactly, it allows for more neuroplasticity. And then right after that exercise, I do my own, you can call it intention setting, or you can call it personal meditation. It's a set of phrases that I say to myself like they have been already achieved. I am X, I have done Y, whatever. You want to, of course, everybody needs to have their own goals and their own things that they want to work on.
Got it.
Right?
So I want to break this down because I think it's another really important practice. So look, these are the practices that prime the brain, right? These are the practices that prime the brain to find the places that you want to make change, right? And to effectively make change, getting yourself into a state where you're operating more consciously, right? You're bringing awareness. What I bring awareness to is where change happens, right? Where I put my focus, that's where I change, right?
Imagine this. You done the example of not willing to get dinner paid for you. So you do the exercise that I mentioned before. So you meditate, do a body scan, anything that makes you in a very calm, relaxed state. And you ask your subconscious, why cannot I accept to get dinner paid? And you will see that slowly thoughts will start to come out. Don't push for an answer immediately, because the subconscious is very gentle. You cannot be like, show me where the bias is, show me where the trauma is. He's not going to answer. You need to be gentle. Imagine like, you're caressing a little baby, and slowly he's going to give you some kind of answer, or like a smile, whatever. So you will get thoughts that are going to start to go in your head. You're literally self-hypnotizing yourself, more or less. And you identify some key areas. Oh my gosh, that's really why I feel it. Because also another thing is intuition. At some point you understand how to feel for these things. Okay, now we've done the first step, which is identifying what you need to work on. The second thing is, how do you change it from a subconscious point of view? Because of course, these thoughts are not here. They're not in the rational mind, they're there inside. So you need to have a longer process, which is the one of new habit creation, which takes around 21 days, that you can rewire and reprogram all of these patterns. So let's say that you discover that you cannot get dinner paid because, I don't know, many years ago, you couldn't afford to pay, like to get dinner paid, and then you felt poor, whatever. So
right now you're defending you're not poor. Here, got it. Got
the opposite situation, or like what you would ideally want to have, is, why do I need to feel still poor? I'm not poor. So let's start to train our subconscious mind to say that I'm not poor. So I am rich. And I love when my friends occasionally pay for my dinner, and I happily receive their gift as a sign of love.
That's right.
I'm making
that
up, okay? If you repeat this phrase every single day, every single morning, eventually even before going to sleep is even better. It's double the efficacy. After 21 days, is guaranteed that you're going to get your dinner paid by your friends, and you're going to be feeling happy about it, because you really trained your subconscious mind.
Yeah. I mean, it's taken some work to do that, right? To be in that space of allowing them to be generous and allowing to accept it. I even noticed that there's part of me that doesn't feel worthy of it. Like I shouldn't,
and then you work on it and you say, why do I not feel worthy? Okay, let's reprogram that as well.
Well, it's an amazing experience to watch the reprogramming of that and see that happen. And by the way, I use that as an example for the podcast, but there's thousands of places in life that continue to find those places, how I can make shifts in the reality of my physical life, or my marriage life, or marriage is hard, my wife doesn't understand me, and all. Look, there's plenty of places where I've created stories that aren't true, right? What you were just talking about are this is my matrix. I can make it anything I want. It's just how I see it. And that is something that no one taught me. Nobody sat down and said, Anthony, you could really create this world to be anything you want, right? I made up some stories that I had to live this way, and life had to be hard, and it had to be a mess. And I was, whatever those are. And today, through these practices that you're talking about, we can invent a life and discover a life that's really amazingly abundant. And, I guess some of the places I noticed to do the work are, where do I feel fear? So let's talk a little bit about that. How do I figure out what I want to work on?
Well, so the first set of questions that I ask every founder I work with is, what have been the key traumatic experiences that you remember from 0 to 7 years old? And I can say why up until 7, but that would go a little bit into the spiritual world. Then the other question is, do you have a chronic pain in your body? And then the third one is, well, when were you born? Precise to the half an hour, ideally, and where? And with this set of 3 information, we can map your blueprint of what's going on. Because the reality is that if you allow yourself to understand that you're much more than a body, there is the energy part that we discussed and so on and so forth. Every challenge that you have had until the 7 years old, even after, but especially from 0 to 7, it's a specific challenge. Let's sum it up in a very simple way. These challenges are being set somehow by life, by the universe, so that you could come here and work on those traumatic experiences as your kind of like set of goals for this lifetime. Everybody, nice. All of us have a specific purpose in this life, and you have a specific set of energies that you are given to work with. And then it's our free will, it's completely our free choice to be working on them, to positively enhance them or to negatively reiterate them. It's our free will.
So go back to that. You said 3 things to identify. So the 3 questions are,
so the key
where was the trauma?
The key traumatic experiences that you recall from 0 to 7 years old. And all of these patterns, just to clarify, if all of these experiences, all of these traumatic experiences, they are most likely repeating themselves under maybe slightly different circumstances, but the key energetic pattern is always the same. It's a repeating pattern.
Okay. Repeating pattern started somewhere between 0 and 7. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Second one is, do you have a chronic pain today?
So neck pain, shoulder pain, back pain.
Yes.
Yeah, something that, a toothache, a headache, I get migraines.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Because wherever you have that pain, it's a key indicator of the energy center in your body that is completely disbalanced.
All right, so it's a good place. Now, a lot of us aren't connected to that thought. That's something that repeats over and over and over again in my life. I have that same pain, and connected to some holding space. So
I can tell you something. I was having just this afternoon a workshop with a founder, and he was telling me that he has higher back and shoulder pain. The shoulder pain in the symbolic meaning happens when you carry a lot of weight on your shoulders. And this person suffers, let's say, from a repeating pattern of additional self-pity and responsibility in his life. It's not random. It's not random.
Got it. So got it. So now, all right. So I've got the trauma between 0 and 7.
Yeah. Chronic pain.
The physical chronic pain. Now let's go to the third one, which I don't understand. So
and the third one is when were you born? So your birth date, exact to the half an hour. It's very important.
Now
and
why?
The location. Well, again, here we go a little bit into the less scientific path. It's still scientific if you consider astrology scientific, which it's actually a science from thousands of years of pattern recognition. But so that time and location is a picture of the whole universal, actually the galactic in the smaller sense, energy influences of all the electromagnetic frequencies of all the planets, including the moon and the sun, when you were born. And that is the pattern of energies that you're given to work with in this life.
So almost like you move into this universe at a specific energy cadence, and that's based on the solar power. I mean, so you're saying, help me understand. I'm not quite getting it. So you're moving into the world, or do you believe we chose to come in at that particular time, or there's a gateway from wherever we are before we get here?
I mean, the thing is, of course, this would really go into like higher topics, but to make it very simple, for anyone that had psychedelics experiences in their life, they will confirm to you, if it was profound enough as an experience, they will confirm you that they have connected to a higher intelligence that is beyond our body. Okay, it's a general universal intelligence. And science, by the way, is now proving that consciousness is not actually in our mind, it's all distributed in our body. If you cut pieces of your brain, it will keep actually existing your consciousness, and it can be measured as an electromagnetic frequency. So let's say the science is slowly proving all of this stuff. But what is important is you get into this body and you decide when to be born, and the precise time and location is going to give a picture of the energies in that specific time and location when you're born. Through the pattern recognition of thousands and thousands of years of studies of how all of this works, people know what are your key characteristics and what are your key energetic patterns that you're going to work with in your life. And it's mind-blowing, the stuff that you can do. I mean, if I knew just, your age, your precise time and location, I could be telling you stuff you wouldn't believe how much I can know about you.
Well, you and I are going to do that on a podcast for the world to see. And Jonathan, if you could, please, let's go get my birth certificate. Let's find exactly what time I was born. I was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm 57 years old. Let's go find the time. And I want to do this work together. I want to sit down and do this, and we'll podcast it. And I'd love going there. Let's go down this path together and try to, take another scoop and do it as an example for others. And I love doing the work, right? If I'm going to do the work, if I'm going to, communicate to the world, the work that you do, let's do an example of it. And I'll be vulnerable enough to be in that space. So I think it'd be great for us to put one out there live and go through the actual experience of unwinding the trauma.
Wonderful. Yeah, let's try. Let's organize that.
Yeah. Well, listen, I got to tell you, I love having you on. It's been one of these, scenarios where, the work you do brings great energy, and look, it continues to have me take another scoop out of myself and to become a better leader. To be a better leader, I've got to get conscious about some of the things, the traumas, the things that I'm dragging into my leadership way of being. And, this really does set me up for unhooking is kind of like a caboose, right? Unhooking the caboose and giving me the energy to flow. So, Alessandro, I really appreciate having you on the podcast today and start to bring those ideas to the surface.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much. And especially thanks for you and all of you that are open to the conversation. It's still scientific, but it's still not widely accepted and known. So we definitely need to shine much, much more light on all of these topics, from the very topic of trauma up to how to actually solve it and how to use tools that I mentioned.
I think these are some of the things that we knew how to do early on, but the scientific world, the industrial revolution comes on. busy in America and things and life, and it got really hectic, and we let go of those things and just, rub some dirt in it, go figure it out. And now we're seeing a lot of the cause of that bubbling up today in the traumas and the social and the brain effects and a lot of the psychosomatic, brain issues that we are all having. So look, I'm going to continue to unwind that with you. If people want to work with you and have them come work with you, where would they find you?
Yeah, so everything I do, it's my legacy now for bridging ancient wisdom and science for performance and for well-being in general. I have my new company, which is called wholegrainwisdom.com. And over there, you'll find the media part where we interview other founders that are already working with all of these methods. The educational part, which is the newsletter, and where I go down into the rabbit hole of everything we talked even more, in depth. And then I organize retreats around the world, physically, offline, funders only, closed doors, very vulnerable places where we can actually get to do this work all together in presence, which, reminds us that we are actually humans at the end of the day. We still want to connect real life.
That's great. We'll put the links to that down below. We'll put your LinkedIn in there as well, and make sure of all the connections for that. So glad to have you on the show today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. It's been great.
It's audience. Hey, audience members, last week, another breakthrough week. It blows me away how many of you guys are listeners, and it just all your great comments. Put some more comments down below. If you believe what we talked about or didn't believe what we talked about, or you have a comment about what we talked about, if you got an idea, put it down there. Also, listen, Jonathan over here is looking for a raise this week. He's almost there. He's working to try to get 5,000 more subscribers. He gets 5,000 subscribers this week. He gets a raise. So if you guys could, we noticed that like a third of you were subscribers. The rest of you guys weren't subscribers. You made it to the end of a video and you hadn't subscribed yet. If you could take a second, just like and subscribe. It means the world to us. It helps us get great guests on here like Alessandro and be able to bring these great ideas to the surface. And that kid Jonathan's looking for that raise. So if you guys could do that now, I'd just be so grateful. And as always, thanks for listening.